Oh man, it's really pouring outside. But the good thing about a rainy day is that it basically means that I have an excuse to just chill and watch a movie. And not just any movie, but a really well animated, innovative, and medium blending film that builds upon a franchise in a way that's never been seen before. Let's watch the Smurfs movie. Well, that was awful. I don't remember the last time I fell asleep in the cinema while watching a movie, but regardless, that record has now been broken. To my surprise, there were actually other people in my screening. There was a mum and a kid and a grandmother with who I assume were her grandchildren. And I kid you not, throughout the entire movie, I didn't hear a single laugh. And if kids under the age of 5 aren't laughing at your shitty jokes, then yeah, something's gone wrong. I mean, this movie had a joke about being muted on a Zoom call. Ha ha ha, why? And for all this and all the other mediocre garbage we've been getting, you know who I blame? I blame Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Ever since this movie came out and received praise from every single human being on the planet, and deservedly so, animation in movies has been changing dramatically. But at this point, to be honest, I think we've reached peak and it's all downhill from here. So what did Sony Pictures Animation and Into the Spider-Verse do differently? Well, it wasn't the little comic effects because the Peanuts movie had already done that in 2015. And it wasn't the fact that they were mixing 2D and 3D together because let's be honest, we've had plenty of examples of that in the past. In my opinion, it's the fact that it was so unashamed to be stylistically authentic. Because for the 20 years before that movie came out, everyone just tried to replicate the Pixar Disney look. Illumination wanted it, DreamWorks wanted it, shit, even Sony wanted it. And that Pixar Disney look was just getting stylized characters and assets and moving them around with real world light physics and textures. So then you'd be like, oh my god, look at the bokeh in the background, it looks like it's actually out of focus and this was taken with a real camera? Jesus. Or sometimes I'd be like, oh my god, look at those water particles. If I didn't know this was an animation, I just assumed that was a real ocean. Well, yeah, at that point it was becoming clear that animated movies were just becoming realistic VFX demonstrations. And then Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse came along. My Disney people of 2018, we have done it once again. Incredibles 2 is now the highest grossing animated movie of all time. Cheers, everybody. But I think more people are talking about the Spider-Man movie than our movie. Okay, but we've been the industry standard for 2 decades now. Plus, everyone, I want everyone to hear this. We've just been nominated at the Oscars for Best Animated Film again. So did the Spider-Man movie, they also got nominated. Oh, well, the Academy hates superhero movies anyway, so. Isn't Incredibles 2 also a superhero movie? Can you relax? It's not gonna win the Oscar, okay? We will win the Oscar. Disney has, is, and forever will be the king of animated film.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
So a new standard was set. So studios and investors were no longer like, okay, I want you to copy exactly what Disney's doing and then we can make the exact same amount of money. Is that 3D animation? Oh my god, we have to do 3D. That's what they're doing, we have to do 3D. It's pretty crazy in hindsight that no big studio took a swing at stylizing the animated film in a really big way. And of course, Into the Spider-Verse wasn't the first animated film to push the medium past the 3D style, but it was the first to get global recognition for it and make a shit ton of money. The year after that, we got Klaus, which was actually for the most part hand-drawn animation, but was rendered using a 3D process, and it gave it a really unique feel that meshes really well with its Christmas story. Klaus was then nominated for Best Animated Film, but it lost to Toy Story 4 because the Academy can't stay off the Disney train for too long, am I right? Because you might upset some people. Then we got Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, which was universally praised for its stylistic picture book look, and it was a really impressive risk because they ditched the aesthetic of the entire Shrek franchise that it spun off from. Then we got more animated movies ditching real-world physics and being like, hey, fuck it, let's make the art in our animation more personal to our animation. So we got animated films like The Bad Guys, The Mitchells vs. the Machines, TMNT Mutant Mayhem, The Wild Robot, Disney's Wish. Disney? Well, I remember seeing trailers for this movie when it was coming out, and apart from the fact that it was probably made just to promote the Disney Cruise Line, it didn't look very good. It literally looked like a mobile game cutscene, and for the first time, it seemed like Disney was trying to catch up with everyone else in the industry. So for this movie, they thought, oh yeah, just fucking put on a 2D cartoon filter because that's what everyone thinks is innovative and that'll make a bunch of money. Yeah, let's hop on this trend. No, that's not the point, and no one gives a shit about Disney Origins, the wishing star from the Disney intro. Who thought that was a good idea? The current individualism of animation lets films be their own thing to support itself, not to just latch onto trends. Into the Spider-Verse was basically one of those corny school posters that are like, kids, if you want to be cool, you don't have to copy the cool kids, alright? Because being yourself, that's cool. But unfortunately, that Disney's wish train of thought hasn't stopped some studios from thinking that by adopting this art style, it's a free ticket to box office success. And I think a film that epitomizes everything wrong with this soulless mindset is Smurfs 2025. It makes it even more glaringly obvious when I have multiple people in real life hounding me about this other animated film that I have to watch. And this recommended movie was also by Sony Pictures Animation. Yes, the innovators who are willing to risk it all on a Spider-Verse movie. The same studio who risked it all on a No Phones at the Dinner Table movie. The same studio who risked it all on an Emoji movie. Sony Pictures Animation in 2025 were willing to risk it all on a movie called K-Pop Demon Hunters. Okay then. Just to be clear, my friends who recommended me this movie aren't into K-pop at all, and I'm pretty sure they would have recommended it to me regardless of whether I was Korean or not. I'm like 50% sure about the last part. First of all, can we take a moment to look at the quality disparity between Sony's film studio and Sony's animation studio? What the fuck is going on there? Second of all, you think that after releasing Across the Spider-Verse, a movie that pushes animation to its limits with characters like Spider-Punk and The Spot, they would at least keep the 2D-ified 3D look for all of their future films, right? Because it's been tested and proven that people like that look. Nope. Sony Animation subverts once again. The only thing they pretty much borrowed for K-Pop Demon Hunters was the lower frame rate and making some really sick action scenes. I think the one thing that Sony Animation gets right is that they know that more doesn't equal better. Yeah, the diversity of visuals in Across the Spider-Verse was an absolute treat, but it plays into what the movie's about and its foundation. They don't give K-Pop Demon Hunters some watercolor aesthetic or some comic look because it doesn't align with its identity. Instead, it doubles down on features that make it more authentic to its East Asian roots. Like these facial expressions, they're usually seen in anime, not 3D animation, but it doesn't matter because everything is so cohesive. Plus, stuff like that expresses the emotions of characters in a much more entertaining way compared to Pixar's bean mouth that they've been running with for the past few years. And then this movie builds its pop star life and identity through other things like fashion and music videos and even just parodying K-dramas because the whole thing is set in Korea. Even if you mute the film and remove every song that's somehow topping every Billboard chart ever right now, you can see how it differs from its competition. I mean, dude, it's now the most watched original animated film on Netflix of all time. It's about K-pop idols killing demons. And you know what's on the other side of this coin? Smurfs 2025. When you have a movie like Smurfs trying to hop onto a trend, you know that something that was once cool is about to be uncool for a very long time. Like I said, it seems like some studios think that by adopting some sort of funky art style, it's some free ride to critical and box office success. The exact same thing happened with the Garfield movie. Dude, soulless. And I'm sure most of you already know this, but if there was one thing that the Smurfs movie was trying to push in their marketing, it was that Rihanna was voicing Smurfette.
Whoa. Yeah, whoa.
It felt like Rihanna voicing Smurfette was a singular thumbtack on the marketing plan wall hanging a $58 million budget. Do kids these days even know who Rihanna is? Well, guess what? At the time of filming this, the last reported box office for this movie is $69 million worldwide. That's around $70 million short to break even if you include their marketing budget. And that's now with competition with Fantastic Four First Steps, Superman, Jurassic World Rebirth, and even F1 in international markets. Jesus. By the way, spoilers for Smurfs 2025, if you care. So this movie, painfully bland plot aside, features a segment where Smurfs, I shit you not here, they go through the multiverse. Jesus, Paramount, you're around 5 years late to this trend. They go through different animation forms like claymation, scribbles, and anime, and yes, it was the most visually entertaining aspect of the movie, but there was no point. It's like a producer watched Into the Spider-Verse at 5 times speed and they were like, okay, so people like multiverse and they like different animation styles, as many as possible. That's why people like this movie. Okay, recipe to success right there. Bro, You are not the Spider-Verse. You are Smurfs. Smurfs! And for the music, no, not the Rihanna comeback everyone was hoping for. By the way, I'm not even saying that you need to branch away from the photorealistic lighting that Pixar's known for. Transformers 1 was great, the realistic lighting worked really well with the metal textures. But I think if they put a little more consideration into how the characters were stylized and made them a bit more serious looking, and to be honest, a bit more cool looking, it would have gotten more asses into seats. Because I remember seeing the first trailer for that movie and being like, wow, this Transformers movie for babies is gonna bomb so hard. Little did I know that it was gonna be good and bomb so hard. The art direction for the movie, I just don't think it was realized to its full potential, and I think that's the first time it actually backfired on a well-written movie since the Spider-Verse movies came out. I mean, seriously, it did not help that their faces looked like it belonged on a Netflix show for kids. By the way, Paramount, I have no idea how you go from Transformers 1 to Smurfs. You definitely have a spy in your company trying to make you go bankrupt as soon as possible. I'm just saying, and I know it's easier said than done, especially for an idiot like me who has never stepped foot into an animation studio, but it's just concerning how animation studios are so confused about why their films aren't doing so well. Nothing has really changed apart from learning that you can do stuff visually as well to help your project stand out and be more memorable. Like, the story is obviously the key, okay? You can't do anything without a good story. But now there's another way to add some bonus points on top. Pixar's new film, Elio, apparently it was a dud. I don't know, I didn't see it. Apparently the executives thought it was too gay and stripped away the director's original vision. I don't know, I didn't see it. It's not doing too well at the box office, and you know what Pixar says to that? Stop complaining we don't make original stories if you don't show up to see them.
Stop complaining that Disney doesn't make original stories if you don't show up to movie theaters and support them in the first place. Who said that? Oh my gosh.
As if there's some fucking 5-person indie animation team working out of a basement. You're Pixar. Why are you asking people to show up to support your product? You're owned by a multi-billion-dollar company. How tone-deaf can you be? Pixar, your movie didn't interest me, and if you did your job correctly, other people around me would have made me interested in it eventually, like Transformers 1. And what the fuck is this about original stories? How about you make a good story? Again, K-pop Demon Hunters, I swear I've seen that shit on the popular section of Letterboxd for like a month now, and that was an original story, was it not? And I love Inside Out too, Pixar, and seems like the whole world did as well, so don't be blaming whatever animation changes are happening in the industry. I'm not trying to stir up a Pixar hate train, but I swear Pixar used to focus on other universal human experiences through creative ways rather than just focusing on puberty all the time. So the Spider-Verse movies have opened the doors for studios to be more experimental with animation and to exercise what they can do with the medium. But it's not some magical spell for universal praise. If you take a bite out of a turd wrapped in those edible gold sheets, it's gonna taste like a turd. Not that they'll ever learn, because as we know, studios always take the wrong lessons from successful hits, and that this 2D-ified animation art style is going to be the new norm from now on until there's a new innovation in animation in the next 20 years or something. Oh god. But it is great to see a lot of different animation styles now, so I think we should all thank the Spider-Verse movies for opening the doors. And I know I mentioned Letterboxd earlier, but I did make a video discussing all the worst types of movie critics on the internet, including the anti-woke people and, you know, superhero movie essayists. Oh my god, I made a video about that. Check that out if you haven't already. Check out my discussion channel, Andy A My Remote. Check out my Letterboxd and check out my second channel for random vlogs and videos, and I'll see you next week. See ya.